Thank you for joining us for another in the series with our HSC Nutritional Sciences students. This one is about plant-based diets. For those of us that are mainly meat eaters or really rely on that, I think this will be some very interesting information and helpful on how maybe we can really work on incorporating more of those plants based proteins and that sort of thing in through our diets, and especially those that are maybe wanting to go more in that direction. I'm sure some really great, helpful information that we'll be learning today. So thank you so much. We have Liz, Elizabeth, and Yissel today. And ladies, I'll let you take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just like Lindsay said, we are going to be talking about plant-based diets. Our title is Veggie Tales, the leafy path to plant-based power. I do want to make a disclaimer that you all should feel free to ask questions in the chat at any time during this point, but we will have time at the end for questions and answers if you think of anything while we're going along. Again, my name is Liz, and this is Elizabeth and Yissel. We wanted to quickly introduce ourselves. We are dietetic students at the University of Oklahoma Health Science Center on the Oklahoma City campus, and we are really excited to get to spend a little bit of time talking about something that we're passionate about, which is plant-based diets. So, the plan for this session, we are going to start off by talking about what it means to be plant-based. Then we're going to move into why someone might do a plant-based diet for nutrition. And then we are going to move on to some practical application to take away from the talk today. So in order to get the gears going, we do have a quick icebreaker question. And we would love for you all to read through the question and the answers and then respond in the chat what you think the correct answer is. So the question says, what does it mean to follow a plant-based diet? Letter A says having a diet that includes a variety of fruits and vegetables. B says a lifestyle with plant-forward eating patterns. C is having a diet with limited to no animal products. D is a healthy lifestyle that caters to individual needs and preferences. And E is all of the above. Let's see. So it looks like pretty much everyone is saying E, which is correct. And we're going to talk about a few of these things and how they all are incorporated into a plant-based diet. So something that is important is to begin with a brief overview of a few of the terms that you might have heard of and that we're going to be diving in and describing throughout our time together.
Hi. So what does it mean to say that you're plant-based? So there's many different usages for the term plant-based. It was termed in 1980 by Thomas Colin Campbell, a biochemist who found in research that there was a positive impact on cancer from a diet based in vegetable consumption. But today, the most common usage is that people who are most concerned with their health and the implications that animal-based foods may have on their health for many different conditions or just in general, they might want to move more towards a plant-based diet. Those who are plant-based for health reasons may not only eat plants, but rather try to highlight plants in their diet in order to see the benefits from eating foods that are usually high in many beneficial compounds, such as antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals that lead to a better health outcomes in general. For many people, not purchasing animal products may be the reason that they don't eat animal products. If you don't want to buy things that are made from animals, then they won't eat animal products. The term plant-based is also commonly used to indicate to people that they are not yet vegan. They might be on their way to becoming vegan, and so they prefer a term like plant-based to indicate that they are basing their diet in plants, but have not yet completely taken out all animal products in their lives. Counter to this, some people are specifically trying to communicate that they're not taking out all animal products in their lives, like leather, beeswax, chapstick, or wool. They're trying to specify that their diet is plant-based, not their entire lives. So there's many different usages for the term. Being more specific, some diets being more specific on what certain diets may include or not include in the diet. Pescatarianism is devoid of all meat products such as beef, pork, lamb, or chicken, except for fish and shellfish. Vegetarianism is devoid of any meat products such as beef, pork, lamb, chicken, and seafood. This diet avoids any meat products that was the result of an animal being slaughtered. Vegetarians still eat animal byproducts such as honey, eggs, and dairy. Veganism, on the other hand, is devoid of all animal products such as beef, pork, lamb, chicken, seafood, dairy, and eggs. And this includes animal byproducts such as dairy, eggs, honey, and gelatin. Veganism is not only a restriction of animal products in the diet, but it's also altering how someone purchases things, such as leather or cosmetic and toiletries tested on animals. In a survey of 12,871 participants, 68.1% of participants went vegan for the animals, meaning that there is a strong ethical component to this type of lifestyle change for reducing animal products in the diet. This all being said, there's many different reasons that people adopt a plant-based lifestyle. I just wanted to highlight the importance of cultural humility that needs to be taken around this topic. Plant-based diets are not a new trendy topic that has just come into being recently. They have very old roots and traditions all over the world. As early as 3200 BCE, certain Egyptian religions adopted vegetarianism. These practices also developed out of the concept of nonviolence around the 6th to 7th century BCE in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain cultures. These cultures spread out plant-based eating patterns all over the Eastern world, and it's important to take into consideration the nuanced origins of these practices that were later adopted by Greek philosophers such as Pythagoras, Plato, and Plutarch, and flowered in Western culture later on as well. There was a time of unpopularity for plant-based diets in the Western world, and later on, this became more popular in more recent times. But I just wanted to highlight that there's a longstanding cultural history in other parts of the world, even though it's just becoming more popular in Western cultures. Many people practice plant-based eating for a variety of reasons, including religion, health, ethics, and environmental concerns. And in this discussion, we're largely going to be focusing on the health aspects of plant-based diets, but we wanted to recognize the cultural importance of plant-based diets for many different people as well.
Yeah, so now we're going to talk about some of the health considerations and a few of the ways that following a plant-based diet can improve a few specific health conditions. So plant-based diets have been shown to support health, including a lower risk of developing cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and cancer. So to begin, we're going to talk about hypertension. Hypertension is the medical term for having elevated blood pressure. This condition is diagnosed by a physician at any point in one's life. Worldwide, it's estimated that 1 billion people have hypertension, and approximately 80 million Americans 20 years of age or older are hypertensive. So I'm sure that some of you or someone that you know has high blood pressure. So some side effects of high blood pressure include headaches, dizziness, chest pain, and some other things that can diminish your day-to-day quality of life. A diet that is too high in sodium and too low in potassium can put you at risk for high blood pressure. Sodium is primarily found in cured meats, processed poultry, deli cuts of meat, and so many other processed foods such as bread, soups, and even some foods that taste sweet. So moving forward towards a plant-based diet could mean that you're eating a diet lower in sodium due to the decreased amounts of animal products and processed foods, which could further help lead to lower blood pressure. So there are several conditions that uncontrolled hypertension can lead to, some of those being coronary artery disease, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and a stroke. And I want to say that us mentioning these things is not to instill fear in anyone, but to emphasize that following a more plant-based diet can actually reduce the risk of hypertension and these adverse conditions, which is pretty exciting. So there are several ways to reduce hypertension, including lifestyle changes like physical activity, medication intervention, and then also dietary changes, which is what we are kind of leaning into. So based on a recent study with 2,000 participants, they were encouraged to take a plant-based diet for 37 days, resulting in lower blood pressure being significantly decreased. So there's definitely still more research being actively done to support this, but eating a diet with minimally processed foods has been shown to be effective in reducing some of these adverse effects, including blood pressure. Now we're briefly going to discuss cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease is a general term that describes the disease of the heart or the blood vessels. This disease of the blood vessels can result from genetic factors, lack of physical activity, uncontrolled hypertension, and several other factors. So, cardiovascular disease actually accounts for nearly 50% of non contagious disease diagnosis and is the leading cause of death worldwide. And those are some pretty big numbers. Coronary artery disease is the most common type of cardiovascular disease and is a result of built up plaque in the arteries, which leads to decreased blood flow and oxygen to the organs. Heart disease can lead to heart attacks, but healthy lifestyle choices may reduce the risk of a heart attack by greater than 80%, with nutrition playing a key role. Vegetarian dietary patterns reduce cardiovascular disease mortality by 40%, and plant-based diets are actually the only dietary pattern that have shown reversal of coronary heart disease. So now we're going to look at how following a plant-based diet can affect the rate of these kinds of diagnoses. So there has been evidence that high consumption of plant-based foods such as fruits, veggies, nuts, and whole grains is associated with significantly lower risk of coronary artery disease and stroke. The protective effects of these foods are probably brought about through multiple beneficial nutrients contained in these foods, such as healthy fats, omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, minerals, phytochemicals, fiber, and plant protein. And we're going to talk a little bit more about these in detail a bit further on in the talk. But these diets are also rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals, which help lower blood pressure and LDL cholesterol, which we want to be low, and reduce the risk of diabetes and help maintain a healthy weight, all of which can lower your risk of heart disease.
And so now we're going to move into type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a disease that occurs when the body cannot properly process sugar into energy. Normally, when we eat, our body breaks down most of the food into glucose, or known as sugar, that releases into the bloodstream. When the blood sugar goes up, insulin, a hormone made in the pancreas, is released that acts like a key to let the blood sugar into the cells and use as energy. With type 2 diabetes, our body does not make enough insulin or doesn't use the insulin well. Then too much sugar stays in the bloodstream and does not reach into the cells for use for energy. Type 2 is the most common, more common than there are 37 million US adults that have type 2 diabetes, and 1 in 5 adults may not know that they have it. Diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. Type 2 diabetes is a major worldwide health challenge. In the last 20 years, the diagnosis of diabetes in adults have more than doubled. A plant-based diet eating pattern is associated with a reduced risk of developing a disease, and it's also been shown highly effective. This is because of the diets are rich in fiber, antioxidants, and other nutrients that may control blood sugar levels and improve insulin sensitivity. With type 2 diabetes, plant-based eating patterns improve glycemic control and body weight with individuals. It has shown that it improves blood sugar levels, body weight, improve insulin resistance, blood pressure, while reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease and other long-term complications. Cohort studies strongly support the role of plant-based diets in reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes. Over 16,000 participants in these studies reported that the following plant-based diet was associated with a reduction of 34%. Evidence from observational and interventional studies demonstrates the benefits of plant-based diets in treating type 2 diabetes and reducing the key diabetes-related microvascular and macrovascular complications such as kidney disease and neuropathy in older adults. Moving on to cancer. Can plant-based diets reduce cancer? Yes. According to the American Institute for Cancer Research, phytochemicals can fight cancer cell formation and replication, reducing certain types of inflammation and rebuilding healthy cells, including immune cells. Plant-based foods contain anti-inflammatory and antioxidant that fight against the development of cancer cells. They're also rich in fiber, and it's reduced. Fiber is shown to reduce the risk of cancer, particularly in colon cancer, by promoting regular bowel movements that can reduce the time of potentially harmful substances in the colon that contact with intestinal lining. Plant-based diets contain high amount of carotenoids that are a fat-soluble compound that are present in fruits, vegetables, grains, and oils. They have been associated not to only reduce the cancer cells, but as well as heart disease, cataracts, and macular degeneration. Research have shown that eating too much highly processed foods can increase the risk of cancer, which are typically in our Western diets that contribute to these chronic health issues. Plant-based diets have been linked into a variety of health benefits. According to the JAMA Internal Medicine, plant-based diets have associated with a reduced of all-cause of mortality and 12% reduced risk of cardiovascular disease mortality. Overall, plant-based diets or a vegetarian diet was associated with a lower risk of incident cardiovascular disease and mortality and all-cause of mortality.
So looking into what you can actually eat if you wanted to go more plant-based. It might seem intimidating to remove certain foods out of one's diet, but I think it's important to highlight what you can eat on a plant-based diet and incorporate new foods into your diet when transitioning into a more plant-based lifestyle. You can eat vegetables, both starchy vegetables like potatoes, corn, squash, and yams, but also non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, peppers, Brussels sprouts, and green leafy vegetables. There are grains like oats, quinoa, bran, couscous, and rice. Fruits are very available like bananas, apples, berries, and so on. There's a lot of non-dairy sources that are fortified, like plant-based milks, including oats, soy, almond, cashew, pea protein, coconut, and others. And there's cheeses made from nuts and tofu. Oils are an important additive to add flavor, and healthy fats like olive, canola, peanut, and sesame. And even though it's recommended from a nutrition standpoint to focus on whole foods, there are plenty of plant-based desserts and plant-based alternatives to things. There are plant-based ice creams made from coconut, cashew, soy, almond. Sugar is plant-based, and many things like certain candies and dark chocolate are plant-based as well. There are an endless amount of processed plant-based alternatives to things like butter, cheese, sour cream, cream cheese, bacon bits, eggs, yogurt, and so on. And there are plant-based versions of everyone's favorite foods to help with being satiated throughout the day, alongside the base of nutrient-dense whole foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and plant-based protein. Speaking of protein, it's important to highlight the large amount of options for plant-based protein. It might be difficult to know exactly what plants actually have protein in them when most people are taught that meat and dairy are the only protein sources available. However, that is not the case, as there are many options to get more than enough protein in the diet. Legumes are a staple in a plant-based diet, as they are rich in iron, magnesium, potassium, and protein. Beans such as navy, black, pinto, garbanzo, soy, adzuki, lima, mung, and kidney are all widely available, both canned, frozen, fresh. Lentils and split peas are also a great legume option. Nut and nut butters are a great source of healthy fat and protein, and there are many varieties, all listed here, and there are more. Seeds are also a good source of healthy fat. Fat and protein such as chia, flax, sesame, pumpkins, sunflower, and hemp. And some grains have a notable amount of protein, such as couscous, quinoa, rice, kamut, and millet. Tofu is a staple in a plant-based protein diet, and it's very versatile to cook with any type of food or sauce, because it takes on whatever flavor you cook it in. Seitan is a plant-based protein that is made from protein that is called vital wheat gluten. It's a protein derived from wheat. It looks like flour and has around 75 grams of protein per cup. Seitan has the consistency of meat and can be marinated in many different sauces and spices as well. Mycoprotein is derived from a fungus and sold by a company called Corn. It also has a meat-like consistency. Total vegetable protein, also called TVP, is made from soy protein. It's in a dried form, and you just need to add water in order to reconstitute it, and then it has the consistency similar to ground beef. Meat alternatives are also now widely available. They are more processed with less nutritional benefit as the others at the beginning of this list, but they can be included in a balanced plant-based diet as well. They're usually made of soy, pea protein, or vital wheat gluten. So you've heard the specific diseases that can be assisted through plant-based diets, but there's also a lot of general health benefits and nutrients found in plant-based diets for healthy people. Fiber is found in plant-based whole foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes. as you've already heard, and plant-based diets are very high in fiber, which can be beneficial for overall health and prevent these diseases as well. Only about 5% of Americans actually get enough fiber in their diet, and this is considered a major health concern. Many vitamins are very high in a plant-based diet as well, such as vitamin C, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, B6, vitamin K, and vitamin A, which are found in many fruits and vegetables. Certain minerals are often lacking in American diets, such as magnesium, potassium, and can be found in high concentrations in a plant-based diets. There are also many chemicals called phytochemicals that you've heard a few times that are found in plant-based foods, and they have other healthful benefits that are still being researched to this day, like flavonoids found in berries or carotenoids found in orange vegetables. Plant-based diets are also lacking in many things that could be considered harmful. They're usually low in saturated fat, which is primarily found in meats and high-fat dairy products. They're also completely devoid of any cholesterol, as all cholesterol is found in animal sources. Plant-based diets are usually require that people cook them at home more often, which often encourages people to use more whole food options when they're eating. So although there are many benefits to a plant-based diet, there are also some nutrients of higher concern that need to be managed when consuming this type of a diet. Just as a disclaimer, please consult your own personal medical professional if you need individualized health considerations or recommendations. These are just some general nutrients to be aware of when you're consuming a plant-based diet in general. B12 is not found in any plant foods. However, it is almost always fortified in a lot of plant-based alternative products, such as plant-based milks and faux meats like Beyond Meat. It should be supplemented if someone is not eating these things and is on a fully plant-based diet. Calcium is often fortified in plant milks. It's also fortified in tofu and found in foods like greens and watercress. Zinc is often found in beans, chickpeas, lentils, and tofu. Vitamin D is a concern because around 42% of the population is deficient in vitamin D, just in general, not just plant-based eaters. It can be obtained from sunlight. However, overexposure to sunlight is carcinogenic, so supplementation should be considered. Omega-3 fatty acids are normally found in seafood products, but flaxseed and chia seed are also high in omega-3s. Certain stages of life involving growth, just as a disclaimer, like pregnancy and childhood, would need certain forms of omega-3s, such as EPA and DHA, and those need to be supplemented as they aren't converted at a very good rate on a plant-based diet. They're already routinely put in prenatal vitamins, but it's important to check. Iron is found in lots of plant-based foods, such as beans, tofu, nuts, seeds, dried fruit, and fortified cereals. Iodine can be found in salt that is iodized, but is also in seaweed. A nutrient called selenium is usually just found in meat and eggs, but it's found in very high amounts in Brazil nuts, interestingly enough. But just in general, it's important to incorporate a very high variety of whole foods, which are nutrient dense if you're going to be going more towards a plant-based diet. So what do all of these foods have in common? They're technically plant-based because they don't contain any animal products. It's important to read nutrition labels and vary nutrition sources from whole foods, as we've said a few times. Although there is nothing wrong with eating these things on occasion, it's especially important on a plant-based diet to eat a variety of nutrient-dense whole foods in order to meet those nutritional needs that we were just talking about. Looking to the image on the right, this is a nutrition label for coconut oil. If you look at the saturated fat content, although most oils, other than tropical oils, are very low in saturated fat, coconut oil is actually very high in saturated fat, and this saturated fat does act in the body in the same way that saturated fat from animal products would, leading to like worse health outcomes. So this all being said, although many foods that are plant-based are healthful, nutrition needs to be emphasized as well. So this is a general idea of what a balanced vegan or plant-based diet should look like for a single day. It's not a strict guideline whatsoever, but there should be an abundance of legumes, whole grains, vegetables, and fruits with some nuts and seeds eaten regularly as well. Having a variety of different foods is very important when eating a plant-based diet in order to get the maximum benefit and all the needed nutrients for good health. So moving towards a plant-based diet. As another disclaimer, everyone's health is different, and being 100% plant-based may not be for you, but these are tips for people who have decided that they would like to move in the direction of taking on a more plant-based diet. But please refer to your primary care physician for individualized health questions, as always. Changing one's lifestyle around food can be very intimidating. It is more sustainable to slowly move towards a plant-based diet over time rather than all at once. Humans live by habit, and it makes changes like this very difficult at times. So slowly integrating changes into the diet by trying something for a short period of time is usually more successful than committing to something 100% the next day with no plan moving forward. It's very important to make a specific time period for which you are able to achieve a goal rather than making a goal for a diet change where you want to be in the end. So a great way to start eating plant-based is to try recipes from different cultures and incorporate new foods into your diet rather than just removing all animal products without adding anything into your diet. Just some suggestions if you're looking for some support from external resources. Meatless Mondays is an organization and also a popular place to start. Instead of trying to completely go plant-based off the bat, try starting with 1 day a week. There's plenty of resources on this campaign's website to help, from a newsletter to a group chat to recipes. Depending on where you are with your interests in being plant-based and where your diet is currently, Veganuary is also a campaign to try being plant-based for a month. Their website offers free e-cookbooks, daily email check-ins, and a free starter kit. There are many barriers to being plant-based. If family is not supportive, then it can be difficult to make changes in your own household. Having community like this found on these websites can make moving towards a plant-based lifestyle a little bit easier because you have someone else to talk to who's going through the same thing as you. No matter how someone decides to approach going plant-based, it's just important to make changes that feel comfortable and sustainable over time.
Yeah, to summarize a little bit of what we've talked about during this session, plant-based diets mean different things to different people depending on their goals and their cultural backgrounds. Cardiovascular disease, hypertension, cancer, diabetes, and other metabolic conditions are heavily influenced by diet and assisted with the adoption of a plant-based diet. Plant-based diets contain various nutrients and also needs for specific nutrients with various nutrient amounts in different foods. Changes towards a plant-based diet need to be done in a sustainable way based on cultural preferences and dietary needs. So that is all we have for you today. Now we're going to move into a time of Q&A. So if anyone has questions, comments, we would love for you to send those in the chat and we can answer to the best of our ability.
Yeah, great information. Give people a moment to drop their questions into the chat. I think certainly this part of the U.S., Oklahoma, if you have been born and raised here, we're a very meat and potatoes sort of region. So I think this was great, helpful information. I think a lot of these different health concerns like diabetes, you see pretty high prevalence in Oklahoma and surrounding states. And so I think, this is very, very helpful. I hope, eye-opening for those of us that maybe have some family history or what have you with some of these health conditions and some of these concerns, just how impactful some of these just healthy habits, lifestyle changes like nutrition can be. So one question that got dropped in, how do I use tofu? Which is great because I just recently tried tofu for the first time. So great question.
Just from my experience, pick the flavors that works best for you. So something that I think works well with tofu is baking it for quite a while. And it gives it kind of a crispy outside without having to deal with it sticking to the pan frying it. of course, if you like frying it, that's fine. But like that, just from my experience, use a sauce that you use for something you might put on meat, marinate it in something that you might normally use for chicken or beef. I've found that baking it is the best thing for me, but also throwing it into soups, ramen, anything that's easy. It depends on the palatability of it for you, but baking it is definitely what I would find the most palatable.
Yeah.
If you guys
I would
have
also
opinions.
add that something that I do personally and some of my friends do as well is using the air fryer. I think I see someone in the
Yeah.
comments saying that.
Yeah.
I've definitely done it in the air fryer. I cube it and then make sure it's dried, and then also add some olive oil and cornstarch, which kind of helps it get crispy, and then adding it to stir fry or a salad. Definitely adding your own flavor profiles as well. But yeah, baking is wonderful.
Yeah.
Air frying
No,
is
air
like
fryer's
fake
great.
baking. I don't know. But
No, no, it's great.
yes.
That's very versatile. I see here it says, where can I buy some of the protein sources like seitan and TVP? That's a great question. So I buy these things at Winco personally. It's a very affordable option in Oklahoma. They have one in like North Oklahoma City. They have one in Moore and one in Midwest City. They have bulk options for both TVP, that is just out of the bulk section, and then Vital Wheat Gluten if you want to make seitan by hand, or if you want to buy seitan pre-made. Obviously, there's things like natural food stores like Whole Foods, Sprouts, and things like that, but they do offer these things at places like Winco and even Walmart. They sell plant-based cheeses, they sell tofu. And they do sell seitan at Walmart, now that I'm thinking about it. But you just have to look in the right section. In Walmart, their plant-based section is actually in the produce, so it might be kind of confusing because it's not with any type of meat products. It's like off by the side next to like kimchi. Yeah, I was like by the salads and stuff. But yeah, that's where I would, Winco is where I would buy it, just because it's the cheapest option.
That's a good question. Don't see any other questions right now. Are there any
So
other
as far, well, I'll ask one, as far as like
Yeah.
recipes, I believe you shared some links in your slides, and we'll make sure in the follow-up email that attendees receive that as well. But do you guys have any go-to recipe spots, maybe books or online resources for more of a plant-based diet?
So personally, I've just used Pinterest. I find it to be the easiest thing, because if you're going plant-based and you're like, I really just want like shepherd's pie or something, like just look up plant-based shepherd's pie on Pinterest. And I find that is the easiest thing for me. I've never been like a big fan personally of certain cookbooks, particular here or there, because I can find the resources online for free. I'm sure that there's great cookbooks out there. I'm not aware of particular ones, but online resources are key.
Yeah, I was gonna say Pinterest as well is fun because there are pictures, and I love looking at pictures and seeing what I'm gonna try to make. So definitely Pinterest is a good place to start.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like you guys have covered the questions that have been asked in the chat. Great information. I thought we learned a lot today, so really, really appreciate it. And always, and you guys noted it a couple times, if this is something that you're interested in practicing more or looking into more, definitely encourage you to, discuss it with your healthcare provider, a registered dietitian, and all of that to make sure we do it in a healthy way and we're covering all of those, nutritious things that we need if we're kind of varying up our diet a little bit. So always include your healthcare provider and a registered dietitian, people of that nature, and your team, if you will, when making those decisions and heading that direction. So thank you all very much, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much.